This is Felt Recoil.
That was loud. Was that loud to you? That was loud to me.
I'm good.
Welcome to the Felt Recoil Podcast. This is episode number 54. My name is Chris, and across from me
It's Patrick.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm doing great. Just want to run one thing by you before we really get started here.
Okay.
Where in the world is Matt Lauer?
Fly around the world to a secret destination. Where in the world is
Katie, it's kind of a catchy tune, isn't it? Where in the world am I?
Where are you, Matt Lauer?
I just want to remind people before I get to that as you said, over the next 5 days, I'll be traveling to 5 different
Oh,
countries.
man. Where is Matt Lauer? What happened to that guy? I'm going to miss his bald head on that TV show I never watched. Matt Lauer, down for the count, man. Have you read the specifics? Because if you haven't, it's going to blow your mind.
No, I read about it this morning early. My brother sent me a text. I had no idea.
Is
I woke
that the
up to
last
it,
you've read?
And that was
Initial
it.
reports?
So, yeah, I was busy today, so I haven't heard anything else.
Man, just be ready because it is only getting worse for this guy. What else is going on? Hawaii is repealing the Second Amendment for people that use certain prescription drugs. I'm not excited about that. We'll get into that. National reciprocity might be a thing, but it's a long way from home. We'll tell you what's going on there with that. And then a Benghazi terrorist, one of the people Hillary Clinton let murder Americans. Yeah, his verdict came back, and Chris Paronto is not happy about it. He'll join us. No, he won't. Dang it. Still can't get him. He heard we only have guests on that take a knee. That's not fair. That's not fair to everybody else. Sorry, guys, that have joined us on this program. Larry Vickers just signed my death warrant.
Yeah, because it was only one.
It was just that one dude, that one guy.
We've had a fair amount of guests.
You're right.
And most of them could probably kill us in some way or another.
I would
Easily.
say legitimately all of them could kill us pretty easily.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Competitive shooter, guy that works for a suppressor company. That'd be
Kill
a
us
cakewalk
quietly.
for him. Yeah. Let's see. Combat veterans, police officers.
Guy with a big dog.
A guy with a big dog that drives big trucks everywhere that could literally run us. And by the way, that guy Jake is now practicing jiu-jitsu. Did you know that? So watch out.
Well,
anyway,
maybe he'll take me up on that offer of crushing you like a beer can.
that'd be cool. Wait, what? In Tampa, they caught a serial killer in Seminole Heights, and I think the police have made a massive mistake. Not in catching the guy, but in what they said after they caught him. Just really, really silly on their part. We'll get to all that momentarily. First, let's talk about this week's charity of choice. You can find more information about it at feltrecoilshow.com/charities. That's plural, charities, because there's more than one there. 15,900 counseling hours provided by hiddenwounds.org. Helping heroes battle the invisible war at home, right out of Columbia, South Carolina. Hiddenwounds.org is the website. You can go there to learn more about them. Who they are is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to help heroes battle the invisible war at home. Their mission is to provide peace of mind and comfort for military personnel suffering combat stress injuries such as PTSD, TBI, and other psychological post-war challenges. Visit feltrecoilshow.com/charities or go straight to their homepage at hiddenwounds.org to learn more about them and drop them a couple bucks to help them continue the good fight. Okay, Matt Lauer is out. He's out at NBC for some wild, crazy accusations. And let me just say this.
I frankly didn't even know he was still there.
That is a good point.
Because I go to work. So I don't have time to watch the Today Show.
Can you imagine having that much time to get up and, maybe if you go to work at like 9, you get up by like 5, but I just can't do that. These days I'm getting to work by 7:30, 8 a.m. and I'm up, right at 6. I have to be on my schedule or I'm completely off. But anyway, I don't stop to watch TV. I have enough time to grab a shower, grab coffee, usually by swinging through Starbucks, and then I always make a fresh pot and leave it for my beautiful wife because I love her and I care for her. All right, I'm done making things up. All right. Now
Which part?
I just realized how awful that sounded.
Which part?
The part where I do nice things for my wife. All right. God, so glad she doesn't listen. Okay, so here's a backstory.
She can hear us through the wall.
That's probably true. Here's a backstory you need to know. Matt Lauer accused of sexual harassment by multiple women. But the important thing here is that his firing is not spontaneous. It's not because of a meeting that happened on Monday, which is what NBC says. His firing comes on the heels of 2 months of investigation by Variety magazine. They have a dozen women ready to talk. A dozen women. Now, not a dozen women accusing him, but we're talking a dozen people who are former or current staff members of the Today Show, and they are saying that Matt Lauer was a known sexual predator, just a known pervert. Now, if you're, say, in the office place or in your car with your kids, I'm going to be as vague as possible with that in mind, okay? So forgive me for not getting real explicit here, but I don't want to catch anybody off guard. So I'll stay as safe as I can here with what Matt Lauer's in trouble for. But I don't know how to do that. Okay, and I'm trying to get creative here. According to Variety.com, as co-host of NBC's Today, Matt Lauer once gave a colleague a certain type of toy as a present. It included an explicit note about how he wanted to use it on her. Another day, he summoned a different female employee to his office and then dropped his pants and showed everything off to her. And when the employee declined to do anything and was visibly shaken, he reprimanded her for not doing as she was told. He would sometimes quiz female producers about who they'd been with in the office, offering to trade names. And he liked to play a very crass quiz game called, do, marry, or kill, right? But a different word there. Okay. These accounts of Lauer's behavior at NBC, according to Variety, are the result of a 2-month investigation with dozens of interviews with current and former staffers. Okay, so I might have misspoke there. It's dozens of interviews. Doesn't mean dozens of people. Variety has talked to 3 women who identified themselves as victims of sexual harassment by Lauer, and their stories have been corroborated by friends or colleagues that they told at the time. Now, here's where I take a slight issue with this. I take a slight issue because Matt Lauer has a constitutional right in the 6th Amendment to face his accusers. So we have to be really, really careful. Here's my issue, by the way, before we dive into this and I forget to say it. My issue lies not with the victims, but with those who knew and did nothing for the sake of the victims. Is that clear? I'm not mad at the victims. I believe Stockholm Syndrome is a real thing. It's a psychological something that people use against you. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it.
But also just power in general. So a guy like him who's been there since 94, I think I read this morning.
Yeah, 20-something years.
So, I mean, he's been there 20-some odd years, and obviously he's got some pull around the joint. So you've got people that are going to fall prey to that if that's pushed onto them, right?
Yeah, and you're exactly right, and it touches on something I was unaware of that I learned today in my reading, is that Matt Lauer was the Today Show. You didn't get segments on the Today Show without his approval. You didn't do the weather on the Today Show without his approval. You weren't a guest on the Today Show without his approval. He was the Today Show. So my issue isn't with any of the women who would say, Are you saying that Al Roker had to sleep with him to get the job? I wonder if he's why Al Roker lost the weight.
I think we're onto something.
He comes walking into Lauer's office, and Lauer's like, look, I want to be sexually attracted to you, but I can't. And Al was like, because I'm black. And Matt goes, who do you think I am? It's because you're so fat. It's funny because it might be true.
Yeah.
That's what makes it extra funny. Anyway, Variety is not naming any of their sources because obviously those women fear professional repercussions. But Lauer will have his day in court. Man, that's just the way it goes. These women will have to come forward. I hope they do. But I wonder...
Will they, though? Will they actually go to court with...
Oh, absolutely.
No, but I mean...
Listen, wait 1 second. All right, make your point. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But see,
that was rude of me.
I'm not read up on this, so maybe my point is invalid. I'm just saying the guy's career is probably over. Safe bet, right?
Yes.
I'm just saying they may just drop it and let it go. So, of all these other people that are being accused, like, who's going to court? Is Weinstein going to court and all his accusers? I mean, Cosby did. Okay, so there's one. Name another one. I don't know anymore.
Right. Well, just Michael Jackson's friends. Yes, that's true. You're right. And I'm not saying they show up for court. What I'm saying is they come forward and they name their names. They say who they are.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's fine. I'm just saying, I think this is the end of the road for it. I think this will get swept under the rug like everything else, and it'll be that. It'll be over.
I'm not saying that in any way does a monetary settlement make it even, right? You haven't reimbursed the victim appropriately because you pay them a large amount of money.
I don't think that's what you're implying.
But $32 million to Lise Wheel for an accusation against Bill O'Reilly. $32 million.
Fair enough.
She had worked with him. I interviewed Lise Wheel on the radio station I worked for in Birmingham, Alabama. I filled in one day when I was the morning show producer. She was the call-in guest that day to talk about whatever the politics were at the time. Ironically, thinking back, holy moly, I should find this and play it. I'd have to dig through my archives. But the exchange I had with Lise that I thought was so funny was that when Leah, the air talent, when she introduced her, and I was kind of co-hosting with Leah that day, she played it up like I knew Lise, and I said, "Well, I haven't seen her since court, but it was I think we're allowed to talk, even though the judge said I'm not allowed within 100 yards of you." And she laughed, and we had a good time. But looking back on it, I mean, it's been probably 10 years, but that's a little strange to think that I was a little prophetic and didn't know. But my point is, she was working with O'Reilly all that time.
What if she comes out and accuses you?
I mean, I'll give her $32. How it begins and ends. That's all I got. But the deal with Lise Wheel and O'Reilly, I mean, we don't even know exactly what happened there. And so I don't think these women stay quiet, not because they're in it for the money, but I think they would be wise if they have been victimized to at least, I mean, get what you're due in that sense. I mean, this is NBC. $32 million of them is like a drop in the bucket. In fact, that's just over Lauer's annual salary of $25 million. $25 million, Hulon. $25 million. Can you just imagine that for a quick second? Like, what does that bi-weekly paycheck look like? If this guy gets paid twice a month, what is he looking at 25, what's that, 6 years? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then let's just say you get 26 checks a year or so. Holy moly. That's $961,000 every 2 weeks.
I can't even wrap my head around that.
Wrap your head around $961,538 every 2 weeks. Now, he's working in New York City, and the government's probably taking half, so he's probably pulling, let's just say he's pulling a cool $500,000 every 2 weeks. That's rough. And he's probably paying an agent, $100,000 a year. My goodness. My goodness. So is this the common theme that guys like O'Reilly and Lauer, when they get this power that they believe is unmitigated by any force, that they just turn into these monsters of some sort? Lauer, according to Variety, Lauer had a lock on his door in his office that he could activate through a button under his desk. He could just press a button and the office door would lock so it couldn't be interrupted.
I mean, I'd probably, if I was pulling down $96,000 every 2 weeks, I would probably, I'm sorry, what no, not 96, what'd you say?
No, he's pulling $25 million a year, which is $961,000. Yeah,
$900,000.
Yeah,
every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
I would think I was Bruce Wayne too.
Exactly.
I would have all kinds of little doodads. I would have a friggin' utility belt.
I would have a slide built in that landed me in the anchor's chair, and when I pressed that button, my office chair would lean forward, and I'd go down into the chute. Like he always did.
George Jetson style.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. According to sources, the sexual harassment extended to when Lauer traveled on assignment for NBC. This is all still from Variety. Several employees recall how he paid intense attention to a young woman on his staff that he found attractive, focusing intently on her career ambitions. He asked the same girl to his hotel room to deliver him a pillow. Anyway, part of a pattern. It goes on and on. But here's the thing. Lauer's conduct, according to Variety, was not a secret among other employees at Today. Numerous sources say that at least one of the anchors would gossip about stories she had heard, spreading them among the staff. So, again, issue not with the victims, but more so with who are these people who are still willing to cash their check? You and I have worked together nearly 5 years now. You and I have worked together almost every day of the week. I can tell you that if I found out tomorrow...
I'm getting tired of you too. Oh, is that not where we're going with that?
I was about to make an accusation.
Oh. Continue. Please.
Yes.
That should be good.
Do it slowly. I was going to say that if I found out tomorrow that you were doing things like this, A, I would say, hey, that's kind of unbelievable. And then B, I would say, that's really unbelievable. And then C, I'd say, well, I mean, what are they doing about it? And if everybody said, well, they're not going to do anything about it, they're afraid to fire him, I go, somebody's got to do something about it. What are they going to do about it? Well, they're not doing anything about it. They're afraid. Okay, someone has to do something about this. And the point is...
Everyone has a boss.
Everyone has a boss, but if the bosses chose to not do anything about it, then I'd find somewhere else to work. Because it's not a company you want to work for. So who are the people that continued to work at NBC knowing that this was the culture at NBC? Because this doesn't stop at Matt Lauer. You need to understand the Variety article seems to suggest everybody knew it was an open secret, like Conyers is in Congress. This representative who's the longest-serving representative in Congress, they now say he used taxpayer dollars to settle sexual harassment claims, and everybody there knew don't get in the elevator alone with this guy. Well, apparently Lauer had the same reputation in NBC, and NBC did nothing about it. It's the culture. They're allowing it to happen. I would almost say... Conyers, when you're elected like that, you only answer to the people. And if the people don't know, they can't do anything about it. Now that they know, they'll do something about it, I would hope. Unless, of course, they simply vote for him based on the color of his skin, in which case he might get elected again. But let's hope that's not the case. Hopefully they don't vote for him again. Otherwise, we'd have things to talk about. But anyway, it goes beyond Lauer, and it is... it's one of those things where you think to yourself... I remember being young and my parents would tell me what filthy people Hollywood types were, but I always took it as like, well, because they drink and do drugs. I don't remember growing up and being told, no, listen, literally in Hollywood, they're sexually molesting anyone and everyone they can get their hands on, and they are predators on the weak, and they're really evil people. And by the way, P.S., they hate you. They wish you didn't exist. They want you to not exist. Did you see... the Andy Richter tweet about conservatives? Did you see that?
Is that guy still on TV too? I feel like him and Matt were popular around the same time. 1996, 97.
Is he still...
Yeah. Is he still following Conan around?
Yeah, I was about to say, is he still Conan's sidekick? I thought he was. I don't know. I'm too old for this stuff. I can't keep up. Here's what he writes on Twitter. Are you a conservative who's made sad by being lumped in with the Nazis? Well, clean up your effing house and be loud about it. Seeming to suggest that conservatives have Nazis in their midst and aren't doing anything about it.
Everyone's complicit.
Right. Except here's the thing. There's really only one political party, or let's just say political ideology in this country, that believes it should be illegal to think and speak in certain ways. There's no modern conservative movement to make homosexuality or Islam illegal, okay? There isn't. No mainstream movement. But there are mainstream, progressive, liberal thinkers who are literally suing Christians who do not conform their religious views to those of the left. So if you're a Christian baker and somebody says, I want you to bake a wedding cake for my gay wedding that you don't believe in, that you think is, abomination to God, and you say no, they want that to be illegal.
And you have conservatives like Milo, who's a gay man, that will say what no one wants to hear, and is that the left is not protecting the homosexual community from Muslims.
Not at all.
Either here or throughout the world. So they still want to send money and all kinds of aid to Saudi Arabia as they continue to murder homosexuals in the streets.
Yeah.
And as Milo would point out, conservatives are not the ones doing that. They're the ones actually essentially offering the protection, you know,
Yep.
that are willing to confront that issue head on, while the liberals turn this weird double standard blind eye thing towards it.
Well, for the sake of being politically correct.
Yeah, we got to, you know, the phrase "you can't please all the people all the time" comes to mind, and for some reason Democrats think that phrase doesn't apply to them.
You absolutely can, unless they're white, conservative, straight people. But otherwise, yeah, you can,
Well, at
you
which
can
point,
please all the people.
At which point they don't matter anyway.
You know, it's not a crazy thing to consider that there are, you know, you got the Antifa movement, you got the Black Lives Matter movement, you got modern day Nancy Pelosi's, Dianne Feinstein's, all these people who would legitimately tell you that it should be illegal for me to sit and tell you the horrors of Islam, or that for me to say being transgendered is a mental illness should be a hate crime. You shouldn't be allowed to incite offense in people. Those things are illegal in Canada, and those things are illegal in the UK, where they don't have free speech. And that is a fascist socialist system where you are forced by the high powers to adhere to a belief system. There's no conservative movement out there that tells you have to believe a certain way. The big difference is that conservatives will tell you can believe whatever you want, but you can't force it on me, whereas liberals say you can only believe what I tell you to believe, and I will force it on you. They are polar opposites. They're the antithesis of each other, and there are few and far between moderates left in the Progressive Party, but I think there's plenty of moderate conservatives. But the point I'm making here is, isn't it interesting that Andy Richter wants you to believe that all the Nazis are on the conservative side, when really the only people preaching racial propaganda and hatred for dissent against the government and a religious minority are liberals? They're the ones.
I like how he puts that out there as if it's just scientific fact, and that we should all agree, or we have all agreed and form that factual consensus that if you're a conservative, you're a Nazi. Right. I think, again, that's a Hollywood bubble, but it's funny to me how someone can be that naive, regardless of the bubble. Is there no one he talks to that thinks differently?
No,
right?
not at all. Yeah, like you said, in the bubble. Absolutely not. And is it not unreasonable for us to conclude that Antifa, given the opportunity, would tell you that people who disagree with them shouldn't be allowed to eat? Because Antifa believes that they should control all means of goods, right? So all production of goods, the distribution of goods.
If it's good for Che, it's good for
exactly
for them.
Exactly, right? And so you're telling me that when Antifa has our food production under its control, it's going to look at you and me and it's going to go, now look, we know that you don't agree with what we're doing, but here's your plentiful bounty for the month for you and your family. Absolutely not. And those are people who supported Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in the primary. Those are not Trump supporters. So you won't convince me that the Nazis are on the right. And I don't think the left is full of Nazis, but the left is the group with the Nazi contingent, the legitimate Nazi contingent of fascists calling themselves anti-fascists who go around and implement their belief system through violence and oppression and intimidation. So these people are all so separated. And even Bill O'Reilly, guilty of the sexual harassment charges, because you don't pay $32 million if you did nothing wrong. So you got Bill O'Reilly, Matt Lauer, Andy Richter, all these guys who gain their power and then insulate themselves in these little bubbles and say, I'll treat people the way I want to treat them. I'll abuse women as sexual objects, and then I'll just believe this made-up fantasy, which really kind of goes hand in hand. Lauer thought he could drop trowel in front of some chick and tell her what to do, and she was going to do it. Richter believes that all conservatives are Nazis, or at least that Nazis are inside the conservative party.
And I think that comes from the Lauer dropping trowel comes from the fact that that's probably been the status quo for so long. And when accusers came forward, they were probably made fun of or shunned or what have you, not taken seriously.
Yeah, nobody believed them.
And now we're having what I would consider a cultural shift where I think the definition of sexual harassment is going to change drastically.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to morph into... I'm not making light of it, but I think it's going to morph into something that it's not really. So, and I don't know... It's hard to explain, but I think you follow where I'm going with this. There's going to be this moment where we go peak freak out on this thing, and then definitions start to change. Yeah, that's sort of a liberal mentality. That's what they do, right?
Sure.
And it's all in an effort to, I think, control the way people are thinking.
Right.
But I think you're going to see the vocabulary change and those definitions change, and then so I think at a certain point we're going to stop seeing all of this because people will finally start to go, okay, I better keep my pants on so that I don't end up like Matt Lauer, where I was making $100,000 every 2 weeks and now I'm not making anything. I think that's the way it's headed.
You know who's probably really happy right now is Mike Pence.
I thought you were going to say the CBS morning team, but whatever.
Yeah, well, them too. But imagine being the guy that got made fun of so hardcore for saying, I don't even have dinner with women without my wife there. My wife has to be, anytime I'm in a private setting with another woman, my wife has to be there. I just don't do it.
And everybody made so much fun of him.
What an idiot. He doesn't like women. You can't get promoted if you work for him and you're a woman because you... Now he's going to see. Told you there was a reason. Well, let's put a bow on this by telling you that Roy Moore's accuser in Alabama, by the way, as it turns out, I'm going to try and unwrap this for you as carefully and as concisely as I can because this gets tricky real fast. But court documents. So Roy Moore's accuser is a girl named Tina Johnson. Okay? Tina Johnson had a son named Daniel, who was 12 years old when Tina's mom took her to court for custody of Daniel. So, Moore's accuser is Tina. She has a son named Daniel. Tina's mom says Tina is violent and has been treated by a psychiatrist at the age of 15. Okay? Follow me so far? So, Tina's mom knew that Tina had mental issues, okay? And so she took her to court and tried to get custody of Tina's son, Daniel. Who is the lawyer in private practice at the time that represented Tina's mom? Anybody want to guess? Anybody want to guess?
You've stumped me. I don't know.
It's Roy Moore. It's Roy Moore. Roy Moore. So now...
I thought you were going to say Hillary Clinton.
No. She would have defended the person who molested the child.
Oh, that's right. That's
if you
right.
remember.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
laughed about it. All right. So let's see here. This is Breitbart.com reporting, by the way. Court documents related to Tina Johnson, the Alabama woman claiming that Republican senatorial candidate Roy Moore groped her in his office decades ago, now raise questions about her motives in making the accusation. The documents reviewed by Breitbart News show that Moore represented Johnson's mother in a nasty custody case for Johnson's then 12-year-old son, Daniel. In the case, Johnson was repeatedly painted by Moore's client as an unfit, absent, and unstable mother and was accused of taking her son from his elementary school against his will. Johnson's mother was ultimately awarded custody in the case. And now, years later, that lawyer who had this woman's son taken away from her because she was mentally defective is now being accused by that woman of groping her inside of his office. Does anybody believe her at this point? I don't.
That's a totally plausible situation.
Right.
Coincidence.
Johnson claims that after she met with Moore, her mother walked out of the office, and then, as Johnson was walking out, Moore grabbed her butt from behind. He didn't pinch it. He grabbed it, she claims. And everybody's rushing to believe her but I don't. Just put it on the record. After reading all this, absolutely see why she would make something like that up. And by the way, she's been adjudicated in court as mentally defective. This is a woman who can't even buy a firearm. She's had a constitutional right revoked because a court has said she's mentally defective. So I don't know where you go from here, except...
Well, it sounds like this is already kind of case closed, though, right?
I hope so, for his sake. Except that now his reputation is ruined because people like Matt Lauer were so quick to get on television and just drag that guy over the coals.
But here's the question.
Lay it on me.
And I don't want to, again, I know we got other things we got to get to. They fire Matt Lauer.
Yeah.
Quick, fast, and in a hurry. Not as quick as they want you to believe, but then you got guys like Al Franken who are not going to step down.
No, of course not.
Even though they're facing very similar charges. What do you do about that? You know what I'm saying? So
it's up to the people. The people are Franken's boss. They can go tomorrow and do a recall election on Al Franken. Not hard. If the people are willing to do it.
He's not going to step down.
Of course not.
I don't think Matt Lauer, given the opportunity, was going to step down. It sounds like he was forced out.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess that's my point is how much of this do you think people believe and how much do you think the liberal voters that put Al Franken in office believe it enough and are going to be principled enough to vote him out? What do you do? It's not because I don't see him doing it. I don't see him making that vote.
I had a friend post on Facebook today, and I don't remember how he said it, but he basically asked the question as to why Lauer hadn't been fired for getting caught making up stories. You remember Lauer had to apologize for fabricating portions of things he'd reported on, situations he'd been in, things of that nature. He'd kind of fluffed a couple of pieces.
Seems to be status quo for NBC.
Of course. And my response was because it didn't appease the progressives at the time. There was no merit to be gained by firing him over that because they just didn't care. Those people don't care. It doesn't endear you to the progressive cause to stand on principle.
Right, but think about the barometer as a whole. Look at what Bill Clinton did.
Nope, not a problem then. Not a problem. Then. So what? The man sexually abused an intern. So what? It's his life.
But if he does the same thing, or let's put another liberal Democrat in the same office today.
Al Franken.
Let's put Al Franken in the presidency, and he does the same thing to an intern.
Gropes a woman while she's sleeping.
And there
Let's
you go.
just say that's what he does.
Bingo.
Okay.
Just for the sake of saying it.
Yeah.
Just for conversation. We say that's what he did.
Okay.
What happens?
Nothing.
So what's really changed? The media is trying to act all high and mighty.
Right.
The same media that has been directly affected by this, right? You've got guys from New York Times, NPR, NBC, every major news outlet in the United States now more or less has had some sort of someone in their ranks be accused of this and now is gone.
Yep.
I'm just saying they want to pretend like the barometer has shifted, but I don't think that it has.
Right. Yeah, they're just getting caught right now, and they're having to kind of pay penance, if you will. And then, like you said earlier, I think it'll go away, and people will forget, and then that'll be that. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it'll go. Things will go back to normal, and it does make you wonder if it'll shift the other direction, because the pendulum could always go the other way, and then you end up in this world where women are, abusing men, and I mean that's heaven. Nothing. Okay.
No.
It is an interesting thing, though, right? Like the fact that you'd be hard pressed to find a male intern who was like, yeah, man, my female boss basically said if we got busy, she'd get me a promotion. The guys in the room would all be like, heck yeah, they'll give high fives. But it's different because it is. Doesn't make it right. All right, Breitbart.com again. Hulon, you tell me. The Honolulu Police Department is ordering medical marijuana cardholders to surrender their firearms and ammunition within a 30-day window of time. KITV reports that Honolulu police are doing this via letters to cardholders demanding they, quote, surrender weapons, permits, and ammunition to the Honolulu Police Department, or they can transfer the ownership. On November 28th, the Honolulu Star reported the police have been sending letters throughout the year, and the one dated November 13th was signed by the chief, Susan Ballard. It says your medical marijuana use, excuse me, your medical marijuana use disqualifies you from ownership of firearms and ammunition. Ballard points to Hawaii revised statutes that say no person who is a fugitive from justice or is a person prohibited from possessing firearms or ammunition under federal law shall own, possess, or control any firearm or ammunition therefore. Blah, blah, blah. U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruled that a ban on gun ownership for medical marijuana is constitutional. The Form 4473, which you fill out every time you buy a firearm, asks if the would-be firearm purchaser is a, quote, unlawful user of marijuana. Anyone who answers yes to that question cannot purchase a firearm. Now,
They added a caveat when they updated this form last, though.
lay it on me.
So in bold print, under question 11E, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, or narcotic drug or any other controlled substance? It says in bold print, warning, the use or possession of marijuana remains unlawful under federal law regardless of whether it has been legalized or decriminalized for medical or recreational purposes in the state where you reside.
Interesting.
So that was one of the last updates that went into effect, I guess, end of last year, so roughly a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
So it's gotten the ATF and the DOJ's attention, which may be why Hawaii thinks, because they're already super anti-gun in Hawaii. So I think this is just one, they're using it as an excuse to ramp up their collection of firearms.
I gotta tell you, I could go either way. I see both sides of the argument. I lived with a guy who I believe firmly was addicted to marijuana, and before anybody laughs at me about that, this guy literally smoked weed 4 times a day at least, and we used to argue about the fact that I could smell it all throughout the apartment. I knew he was a recreational smoker when we moved in together. I knew that much. I didn't know he was smoking 4 and 5 times a day, and that he was willing to just sit in the middle of a living room and do it. So we kind of butted heads about that. But the fact of the matter was, if this guy didn't smoke weed, he was angry. So he was, I always thought, and I don't know because I'm a medical professional, but from what may be a massive misunderstanding of bipolar.
Even though you don't have a thyroid?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Why?
I thought maybe that made you a medical professional.
That's true. I see what you're saying. I could be considered a medical professional because of my cancer.
Right.
I met a cancer doctor. Yeah. All right. Basically, I'm pretty smart.
Yeah.
All right.
Nailed it.
I don't know what bipolar disorder does. And if I'm mistaken, please tell me. I'd love to know. And I mean that sincerely. But this guy I always thought was. Because he could be really, really happy. If he was high on his weed, nice guy, real mellow. We'd play a lot of guitars, cool kid. Get him off his weed, and he'd go back and forth. Nice guy some of the time, really angry. Like, we were sitting on a couch with the property manager of our apartment complex, and it was as if I don't remember what she asked. She asked for like a paycheck stub or something just so innocuous. And I looked over at him, and I was like, you can get that, right? And he goes, oh, I'm so tired of all this. And he just stormed out. And she said, what happened?
Well, I mean, in his defense, if you're high all day, life is hard.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But all I do know is that my experience in living with him made me realize that marijuana was not the mellow, mild drug that people want you to believe it is. There's this kind of common thing where everybody goes, well, I mean, if you smoke weed, it's pretty harmless. It's a lot like alcohol. Maybe, but I know a lot of guys that drink and get mellow, and then I've been around people who drink and just want to fight, and so it affects people differently. And so just as I would say, if you're the type of guy that boozes up and gets angry, probably shouldn't be drinking the booze while you got the loaded firearms handy. You know what I'm saying? So I know it's a case-by-case basis with the weed, but I kind of get it. Plus, it's an illegal substance. So if the government says it's illegal and it's part of the law, then the law is a law. On the other hand, if we're prescribing it for legitimate medical purposes, then I have a huge problem with the slippery slope I think that creates. Because if I get up every morning, which I do, and take medication, which I do, and suddenly the government goes, well, that medication can alter your mood, which it could, okay? So even just the Synthroid that I take every day, they'll tell you, well, this could make you drowsy, could alter your mood. We got to adjust things and make sure it's right, make sure this and that. So if they suddenly get up tomorrow and they go, well, Synthroid can alter your mood and it's a whatever type of substance, and so now you can't own guns. Well, where does that leave me? So because I had an actual medical condition and this is what fixes it, I lose my Second Amendment right? I don't know. I don't know where I stand. That's all I'm saying. I'm a little torn on this issue because, again,
I am too. The libertarian in me says, who cares, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you run down the list of people who commit mass shootings, typically they're prescribed some sort of mood-altering drug, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm. That they've come off of, usually. They get dependent on it, and they come off of it or something, and everything snaps. Yeah.
I don't know that any of these people have ever been found to have marijuana in their system when it's over.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. There is a little bit of me that says the stoners are harmless. Right. I think there's a little bit of that, but again, I have that libertarian viewpoint of, if they want to smoke weed and it's not bothering anyone else, right, and they want to also own a gun, as long as they're not stoned when they buy it, I don't really see the big deal.
Right. Yeah. It's a hard thing to really make a firm decision on because the jury's still kind of out. But for now, the law is the law. And really, you're not allowed to buy a firearm if you abuse alcohol either, right? Isn't that on the form that if you habitually abuse alcohol or any other illegal substance? What's the question, Reed? Do you have that up in front of you?
Well, in not so many words it does. I would assume the word depressant would cover that category. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah. So depressant, stimulant, narcotic, drug, or any other controlled substance. Yeah. The only real specifically drug outlined on the form is marijuana. And I think that's specifically because so many states have made it legal both for recreational and medicinal purposes.
I'll tell you this. The one thing that is true about buying and selling of firearms is that the people who were trying to do it the right way absolutely 100% do not want to break the law. Okay? On Black Friday, I was working in the gun shop I work in, and it's obviously super busy, but I had this kid who's maybe 12 years old, and he says to me, you ever get, and he was filling out his form, because I'll just sell to whomever. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
His dad was filling the form out, or I assumed it was his dad, and the kid goes, you ever get anybody that just, like, answers yes to some of these questions on here, and, like, you know, or lies, and then you find out they lied? And I said, actually, here, people usually confess their crimes because they don't want to get in trouble because they know it's the federal government. So our scenario is more likely to be, hey, man, so I threw my wife down the stairs last night. Is that going to be a big deal? And you're like, yes. Okay, all right, I didn't know. All right, I wasn't here. All right, I'll see you later. You know?
Don't tell them.
Yeah. And then walk out. I was asking for a friend. My friend did it. Bye. You know? So they're not really trying to dick around with the ATF. So I don't worry about the law abiders who maybe occasionally sneak a joint, before a concert or something. But I do wonder what door it opens to other, because certain medications are controlled substances. That's just what they are, and they're prescribed to people who legitimately need them. There are chemical imbalances in the brain that can make you require these. And so if you say that person can't own a firearm for defense inside their home or in public, then you have to say that person's also not competent to vote and do a lot of other things guaranteed by the Constitution.
And to your point, operative word in 11E on the 4473 is unlawful. So an unlawful user of a controlled substance. Well,
Right.
is that sleeping pill that you've been described? Have we suddenly recategorized that?
Right.
Maybe. And then now you're a criminal overnight because you own guns or you've bought guns and you take this medicine?
How long have you lived with your fiance? Ever since you guys got engaged, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I've been married to my wife for almost a decade.
Because I'm respectable
Yes, you are.
and a gentleman.
And
And she's a lady.
you're telling me, how long you guys dated?
6 years.
All right. You're telling me she's never had something she was prescribed that suited what ailed you at the moment and you popped one? You know what I'm saying? Like a sleeping pill or, I remember last time I got really sick, my wife came in and she's like, hey, we got some antibiotics that were left over. You just want to take these? And I think legitimately they were for our 5-year-old. And so I just took them because they were on hand and, kind of jump-started my system. That's illegal. That's not, you're not technically legally allowed to do that kind of stuff.
Also, I have dogs, and I had some opioids prescribed to them, and they are really something.
man.
I will tell you that.
Yeah, that's good. Good for you. I'll tell one quick story,
kid.
and then we'll move on. We're almost out of time here. I do remember once being picked up by a friend, and we were riding down a road where the speed limit was like 50 miles an hour. I said, hey, why are we driving so slow? I remember looking over. He's like leaning forward like a grandpa. And he goes, yeah, I'm not going to lie, man. I smoked some weed earlier. I said, why don't you pull over and I'll drive? It's like,
We're going 9.
all right, buddy. And he pulled over in this bank parking lot and we switched places.
But see, that's to my point.
Right. No, yeah.
I mean, that's
what made me think about
for
it.
the most part, that's what it does to you. And I guess that's why I don't have such a problem with it, because people can be recreational users and still be constructive members of society.
Sure.
I draw the line at the meth heads and the heroin addicts that can't function and they have to be
Right.
coddled by the state.
Yeah. Maybe it's ignorant, but there is a big difference between taking a plant, drying it out, rolling it up in paper, and smoking, inhaling the fumes. I mean, if you were to throw weed on a bonfire, I don't know this for sure, but I would assume you would gather around and everybody would get a little high. Right? If you just found like a bunch of weed like growing in a field.
I don't know why you're looking at me.
I've been burning my weeds and leaves. It's not working. I guess that's why I'm asking. I would assume that happens. There's a big difference between finding a plant and smoking it and getting high, and then literally mixing
Making something out of aluminum
Clorox
and battery acid.
Robitussin. Yeah, absolutely, and battery acid. Big difference. All right. Hey, the NRA ILA, which is the Institute for Legislative Action, wants you to know that the U.S. House Judiciary Committee is now doing a full markup of H.R. 38, which is the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. It's important right now that you urge your member of Congress to support this crucial legislation. The way this is going to work, it's not very long, by the way. It's 7 pages. So it's not a long bill to read. So that's a good thing. The way this is going to work is if you have a legal permit to carry in your home state, and it has to have your picture on it, and that's been issued to you, then when you go into another state that is either a shall issue or may issue state, right? Is that it? Shall issue and may issue? Is that the 2 types? All right. If you go into either one of those types of states, as long as the state in some way or fashion does issue concealed weapons permits, you're allowed to carry under their laws. Meaning, let's just say that I have my FN 509 and I wanted to travel to, say, Washington, D.C., where it's legal to own a gun now, and the Supreme Court said you can also get a concealed weapon permit. Well, D.C. is still allowed to tell me I'm only allowed to have 10-round magazines, but they can't tell me I can't bring my firearm. Makes sense? So you have to understand the jurisdiction to which you're going's gun law. You have to know their laws before you get there, but your permit would be good anywhere permits are issued in the United States. So it's very promising. The NRA says that it is their highest priority right now. And passage is closer than ever before, but it won't happen without your support. You can contact your member of Congress today and respectfully urge him or her to support H.R. 38, the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Call the U.S. Capitol switchboard at 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. I know that sounded like a commercial, but it really wasn't. It's just not a lot to say about it because my opinion on the matter is yes, the Second Amendment should be your CWP around the country. I've kind of come to that conclusion. You have a right to keep and bear arms, and the Supreme Court has now said it extends beyond your home. So there's no arguing about it. You go carry and defend yourself and your family. Okay? All right? Good. Okay. Two things. I hate to gloss over that one. We'll gloss over this one, and then we'll wrap with the UN being our vote of the week. Perfect. All right. Tampa killing suspect is charged with 4 counts of murder. This is really, really terrible. This is a 24-year-old man arrested on 4 counts of murder, and he just killed all random people in the same neighborhood of Seminole Heights down in Florida. Howell Donaldson III taken into custody Tuesday afternoon at a nearby McDonald's after police recovered a gun that they said had been used in the 4 killings. Here's the thing. This guy asked the manager of the McDonald's to hold the gun for him. The manager told another employee and was like, I don't know what to do with this thing. And the employee said, there's a cop over there doing paperwork. Take it to him. So legitimately, this guy walks his gun into the McDonald's. I think he worked there. I've heard mixed reports. Can we confirm? I don't know if he worked there or not.
I think so.
I think he did. But just think, you walk into work, there's a cop over in the corner doing his paperwork, you hand your gun to the manager that you've murdered 4 people with, supposedly, and think you're going to get away with it. Anyway, the police believe this is the guy, and this is the problem I have. This guy, he will not get a fair trial, and I think the police did themselves a massive, massive disservice on this one. Even if they know everything about the guy and they know it was him, they're saying they want to figure out his ties to the neighborhood. Here it is. All right, so on Twitter, Bob Buckhorn. Let's see who Bob Buckhorn is. I want to make sure I tell this to you correctly. Bob is the city of Tampa's mayor. All right. And he says that... Where'd it go? I'm sorry, man. Hang tight. Oh, great.
Oh, don't worry. I'll wait.
Now CNN wants me to look at pictures of Anderson Cooper. Speaking of sexual harassment.
Don't do it.
All right. Bob Buckhorn says it's because of the Tampa PD and our community partners in Seminole Heights and our regional partners in law enforcement that tonight we've made an arrest. Thank you. It's been 51 days, and it's time for Seminole Heights to have a good night's rest. See anything wrong with that?
Read it again?
All right. It's been 51 days, says Bob Buckhorn, and it's time for Seminole Heights to have a good night's rest.
That doesn't seem very respectful.
Buckhorn praised the tired law enforcement authorities who had worked 24 hours a day to solve this case. He said, today was a good day. Today the good guys won. Today Seminole Heights can sleep. Today we begin the healing process, and today the judicial process starts, and it will end. And I can promise you that when it does end, that this community will be a better place because I know where this guy is going to spend his eternity. They've convicted this guy to the public. They've already told everybody he's absolutely guilty, and he hasn't even started his trial. As a massive, massive problem, legally speaking. Keep your mouth shut. Say all indicators are that this may be our guy. We're going to let the judicial process go to work, and we're going to make sure we're right. We'd urge everybody to be on alert. We believe we may have got him. That's all we're going to say. Or you just say, we don't comment on ongoing investigations. People do that all the time as well. I think that was a major, major, massive...
Could have taken a cue from the guys in Vegas and just not said anything.
And then just hope it goes away, which it has, interestingly enough. But yeah, when I first read it, I thought, man, this kid can never get a fair trial. Can never, ever get a fair trial now because he's been convicted in the public, by the media now, in the media. So the public now just all assumes this guy did it. And maybe he did. Maybe they have Loctite evidence because the casings match out of the gun, and that's how they know it was the gun. But the fact remains, you cannot convict the guy publicly before he goes to court, or you're causing yourself a lot of heartache. Watch him walk on a technicality and see what happens. Big mistake. Don't do that. All right. Our Voda of the week this week goes to the UN, which I guess that could probably happen, every day. This is IJR.com. After Benghazi terrorist is cleared of murder charges, that's right, a hero who was there gives an explosive take on the verdict. On Tuesday, it was announced that Ahmed Abu Khattala, a key figure in the 2012 Benghazi attacks, was acquitted of 14 of the 18 charges against him. While the counts of terrorism still stuck, the most severe charge he faced, murder, did not. NBC News says prosecutors said Khattala was among 20 people who stormed the U.S. mission with machine guns and grenade launchers, set it on fire, and later attacked an annex, killing Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. But in a big setback to prosecutors, the jury found Khattala not guilty on charges that his actions led to the deaths of the Americans. Instead, Khattala was found guilty of discharging a firearm to cause violence and destruction of property. In recent years, Benghazi has been one of the most significant national security topics. It gained further attention after operators at the CIA annex came forward and said they were told to stand down when the consulate was being attacked. One of the operators, Chris Paranto, spoke to the Independent Journal Review about the development in Khattala's case, saying, "First of all, let's clear something up. Khattala is being called the mastermind. He was part of the operation, yes, but to call him a mastermind, I don't agree with that. The thing that bothers me about Khattala is that he was a commander in the Martyrs of 17 February Brigade, a terrorist organization. The 17th February was supposed to help us and protect the consulate, and were not vetted well enough. I told them they had a jihadist group there at the compound. So Khattala had ties to the group behind the attack, Ansar al-Sharia, and we're still playing nice. What do they think? Are those terrorists going to see this news and be quaking in their boots? No. They're going to laugh that we are trying them in a criminal court. He's an enemy combatant. It's sickening." Paranto turned up the heat on the people who made Khattala's extraction to the U.S. possible in the first place. "It's a political charade of the Obama administration," he said. "We went and grabbed this guy. There are only 2 options when dealing with terrorists. Number 1, you grab them, interrogate them until you get all the intelligence you can, then throw them in Gitmo. Number 2, you put them to death." So the Obama administration and the ne'er-do-wells at the UN will be our vote of the week, because certainly they could do something about this, but they chose not to because they all like these guys and they think that they should be free to go out and worship their religion of peace as they see fit.
Well, the libertarian in me... Crap.
Libertarian in me thinks bring back public hangings. Yeah, because the death penalty should be used as a deterrent for crime. All right. Anything we missed, Elon?
Oh, I think we covered it all.
We got a lot in there in 58 minutes. We will see you next week. In the meantime, in between time, find us online at feltrecoilshow.com, on all the socials at the Felt Recoil Show. You can email me, Chris, K-R-I-S, at feltrecoilshow.com. Patrick, common spelling for a common man. If you're in the area of the upstate of South Carolina, we're starting to ride a lot of mountain bikes. And if you're wanting to ride and get out and fall off of a mountain with us, we'd love to have you ride along. So shoot an email. We can share our Strava accounts with you. You can come see where we ride, join us, and we'll have a good time. All right.
Or maybe we come to you.
You think they live in DuPont?
That'd be cool.
That'd be fun. All right, we'll see you next time for more of the Felt Recoil Podcast.